Hey everybody, just recording a little update from my stream this past week from the 16th of November. Didn't really get the finished product we were looking for, and definitely want to just update and make sure that you guys knew really the right way to do what I was trying to do. I was close, but wasn't able to quite remember all of the steps that I needed to take. So just did a little digging real quick this past week and found some answers. So let's dive in and take a look at how we actually set up some grass on some cloth and maybe do something interesting with it. So let's take a look. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is just kind of start back from scratch. So let's just add a geometry node here, and we'll say this is sim vellum cloth, something like that. All right, and let's jump inside. We're going to start with a grid. From there, we can just add a few, just add an attribute, like make sure we got some normals on it, just to make sure that's working good. And let's see, what else did I put on there? Yep. Let's add a rest onto here as well. That's going to be helpful for us in a second. And I'm also going to use a group here. And let's add the group. What did I do? Sorry, I've got my laptop over here just to kind of keep track of what I did during the week. Yeah, there we go. All right, so let's do some points here. And we can just call this cloth. All right, so we've got our points in a grid, but let's up this a little bit. So let's change this to be something like maybe 25. Set each of these to be 150, something like that. Great. All right, so we've got our kind of base cloth here. It's looking fine. Cool. Okay, so here's where we change a little bit from the way that we had it before. So instead of trying to do like the scatter to points and then copy from there, some lines onto it, really we should use the hair tools that are in Houdini. And I was just kind of missing exactly the steps to make that work last time. So let's actually look at how to do that here, and we'll use that kind of to our advantage because we can actually get some really nice duplication from our guide curves once we start that process with the right attributes and everything. So really, that was the biggest thing we were missing in this past week's stream. So I'm going to drop down a hair generate node here. So this looks for the rest skin, the guides, and the animated skin or points. And from there, really all we're going to put into here is the rest skin. So we don't actually need anything else beyond that. And we're already generating some lines here. Maybe what I'll do is just make this gray, just so we can see it a little bit better. Hopefully that'll be a little easier to see on the stream than white on light blue. Okay, so we're going to bring the density down a little bit. I can't remember exactly how far. 10 could be good. Let's try that first of all. Let's set this length to 1 just because that was roughly where we were going with ours. We're going to add some randomization in a second. That's pretty easy to do from this method once we get going. So we can do that. We could also add some more relaxed iterations here if we want it to be a little bit more smoothed out. So maybe something like that, just to kind of make it a little bit more normalized across the whole grid. Can also change our scatter a little bit here if we want to, just, whatever. Okay, so we've got our hair gen here. So that's kind of step 1. But from there, we also want to do a little maybe processing of our guides and things like that. So let's do this. Let's add in because we need a VDB here. So let's do a VDB from polygons, and we're going to add this in here. And I should mention that I saw all of this stuff on the CG Wiki. So if you're looking, go check out Matt Estella's CG Wiki. He had a really nice kind of project file that you can download and take a look at if you want to. But I was just trying to figure out exactly what the optimal way of doing hair without going through all of the rigmarole of doing hair, just kind of doing it in SOP. So I used his kind of stuff as a little test bed for this. So Anyways, we'll maybe cut this down a little bit, something like that. Great. And then what we can do from here, let's do I'm going to do a guide process here. Oh, you know what? Let's see. We're going to do guide. I think there's a length one here. Yep, set length. There we go. Perfect. All right, so we need the guides. So here's the hair curve. Oops. Here's the hair curves here. Cool. Actually, you know what? We might not even need to worry about that so much. We could just do it like that. We might not even need this. Now that I'm seeing it, let's just see if we don't need this. We might be able to get away without that. May have been an extraneous step. So let's see here. So we've got our guide process. We can set the length. We could say randomize here, and we're just going to use the same values that we had last time. I think it was 0.75 and 1.25 roughly. So that's going to give us some randomization here. How many guide curves do we have? 6,000. Okay, that's probably fine. Should be okay to throw that into Vellum. And cool. Yeah, that actually might be all that we need. Not sure that we're going to really need that VDB. So that's cool. It's because we got our grid here. We've got our guides. And that's all looking great. So let's do some work with these guides here. So we've got guides coming out, we've got skin, and we're not gonna have the skin VDB because that's just passing through here. So, all right, let's take a look at that. So let's do a resample here, right? Let's do a resample on these guides just because they're probably only 1 point, but let's actually take a look. No, they're more. I think you set that here in the hair gen actually. Yep, right there. 8 segments. That could actually be all right. All right, you know what? We might not even need this. Let's take this out of here, and we'll just set this here. So we'll do 10 maybe. Sure. Let's see how that goes. 10's probably okay, but just a few. Let's do 12. A little bit more. Great. Okay, so we've got our guide curves here. I'll turn this off. Great. The other thing maybe we could do, let's see here. Can we do guide process? Maybe we could bend them a little bit. Just kind of thinking here. Maybe we do a little bend on them and just see what happens here. Now this might be where we need that skin VDB because I don't see anything happening here. Oh, okay. There we go. That's fine. We probably don't need this section. Yep. So why don't we just set these maybe to a default? Something like that. Just give it a little bit of initial bend. This can maybe just help, start that process out so it's a little bit more natural to begin with. Feels maybe a little more grassy. So that they don't all maybe fall in exactly the same direction. Cool. All right, that looks good. All right, so what we need to do from here, so that's all of our kind of hair processes there. I don't think we're going to need this. All right, so let's do a group. We're going to group those by points because these are going to be our grass. So let's do points here, and we'll just call these call that grass so that we have grass and our cloth, or we could call this something like ground maybe instead. Just maybe make it a little more clear what we're doing here. I'm actually going to move this over because I think we're going to pull this out. Let me just see here. Has this just been passed through? I think it actually has been. Let me just drop a null down here. Just double check. Got it coming out here. Yeah, that's fine. We can actually just leave both of those like that. That'll be cleaner. Cool. All right, so that's going to be our ground. That's going to come out this skin node right there. Okay, so we got grass. Let's do I know why I had a resample there. It wasn't to resample the points, but it was to turn off maximum segment length. That means it's not going to resample it at all. So if you turn, let's say we had this on and set this to 0.5 or maybe less, maybe like 0.2. Looked at it. All right, so they're getting resampled, right? But if you turn this off, it's not actually resampling it at all. It's just leaving it as is. So what I'm going to do is just use this to add the curve U to it. That'll get 0 at the root. If you didn't see this before, what we're doing here is we're setting a curve U attribute here. And if I visualize that, let's just pop this up and get the curve U. And I'm going to right click here and just say instead of color, we're going to do a marker. Close that. I'm just going to get to the end here so we can actually see maybe what's happening here. So if we come in here and look at them, we can see, ooh, squirrely there. We can see that we're dealing with 0 on the end here, and it's going up to 1 at the top. So we know that we want to set 0 as the kind of root pinned points, more or less. So let's do that. So let's do group, another group here, and we'll say, we can just call these maybe roots, something like that. 2 points, and we'll say the base group is at curve U equals 0. And so the reason for that, again, is because we want to use that attribute, that curve U attribute, where it's 0. So we're going to set that equal to the group. So now you can see group roots is set here where curve U is 0. So perfect. Those are the points that we have. Looking good. We've got all our roots selected here in the viewport. Great. I'm going to hide this again. I'll pop that up and down every so often. That's just our geometry spreadsheet if you're not familiar with that. Yeah, and so the other thing that we need to do is let's just expand that by a little bit, that group. So I actually used a node last time that was a AE-lib node, but I'll just use the default one now. I forgot that there was one. Group expand is what it's called. And so what I can do here is call this roots. Base group is roots as well. So there they are, and we can expand this by however many steps we want to expand it into. So I'm just going to have it expand by 1, so the bottom 2 points should be kind of grouped there. So you could make it more stiff down at the bottom there, basically by adding one more steps, however many. But what we're going to do is we're going to use those points as roots for constraints that are going to glue it to the ground, basically. So that's what we'll get to next. All right, so we've got our groups here. We've got grass and roots. And if we do a merge, actually, you know what? We can do our fancy little shift click here, shift click there, and then alt click, and that's going to give us a merge down here. So now we should have our grass, ground, roots. We have these skin prims here, which are important because that'll allow us to actually use the hair tools after the Vellum sim to be able to generate more hair kind of in between, because we're going to duplicate these and make some more hairs and things like that. These are just going to be our guide curves. So okay, so we've got that merge. Let's start throwing these into some actual Vellum nodes now. So let's do a Vellum cloth. Do that first. So we want this only to be on the ground. So we'll change this groups to points and say ground here. So now we're only adding that cloth to the ground. Then let's do hair. Grab the Vellum hair, drop that down. And here we'll say this is going to be on the group, points, group, grass. So this is on the entire grass, not just the roots. So we got our cloth and our hair. So now what we're going to do is do a glue. We're going to grab the Vellum glue, put that down. And so what this is going to do is we're going to have it search between things. Now you can see that it's basically taking these two separate pieces and kind of gluing them together. And that's more or less what we wanted to do. But instead what we're going to do here is we're going to add some more in here. So let's just make sure we're getting the right ones here. So let's do grass. The target geometry we're going to say is ground. That should work just the same. Nothing should really have changed. But let's add some search distance here. Let's say maybe 0.5. Oh, actually, that's right. So we don't want to do the grass because you can see here now we're starting to get some higher points than what we would want, like this one way up here. Where did that go? Well, anyway, this one right here, there's a really tall one right there. So let's, instead of grass, let's take off grass and let's do roots. Great. So now only roots should be going. So we're going to up the constraints per point here. We're going to do this not at 3, but we're going to set this to 4, just to make sure we've got some nice, basically we're constraining it to the 4 closest points, which are going to make like a nice stable base for these hairs to kind of stand up, or grass to stand up. Great, so we've got all of those constraints made there, looking good. Let's turn that off. We'll probably need to tweak some of these things, but we'll just kind of go a little bit at a time. So actually what we could do here is we could turn both of these off, and let's actually, for right, since we have them set up, we're good. Let's just turn this off for right now and just do the cloth first. Let's do a Vellum solver. So I'm basically just turning these two off, so it's not doing anything, and then I'm disconnecting this connection here because I don't want the hairs to come into it. Let's just play with the cloth first, just because we want to make sure that that looks good before we start worrying about the grass being attached to it. So okay, so let's just add a substep here, maybe go to 150 on this, just slightly up the constraint iterations. All right, so now we've got our cloth. Let's bring this down by, so this is the ground position. We'll just bring it down a little bit so it doesn't like pop into place or anything. Let's see how that looks. Yep, that seems fine. It might drop a little bit, but that's okay. In fact, what we can do is we can, let's go to from perspective. Let's do front viewport. I just want to see what this thickness looks like here. Let's show, visualize the thickness. Let's just see where that gets us. Oh, in fact, turn this off. We could just visualize the thickness here. Go into visualize, say thickness right there. That's weird. Oh, okay. Got it. This is the ground plane. All right, so let's bring that up a little bit. 2.5. Great. That's probably gonna not really move at all now. Should be good. All right, let's go back to perspective. Great. Turn off that visualization of thickness. All right, so what we need are some forces to kind of push this around. So what I was doing last time, let's first get some noise in here. So let's do pop wind, and we're going to make sure this is only operating on that ground. So let's take the group here, and the reason I had those as point groups is because these are looking for point groups. So we're going to do ground, air resistance. Let's maybe cut it in half. I'm trying to remember exactly how I had this. I think the amplitude was at like, let's start with like 2, swirl size at 4, and maybe up the pulse length a little bit as well, because we don't want it to be super. Pulse length means how quickly the noise kind of repeats itself and starts, going through loops and things like that. So we want to make sure that's not too fast, so it kind of is a slower evolving type thing. So let's see how this looks. Starting to get it to push some stuff around. In fact, what I'd like to do is maybe hide that. Yeah, we're going to turn that off. We don't need to see that. All right, so not enough forces to kind of push it around. It's starting to move, and it's like looking okay, but let's just maybe push this a little more. Let's go to 3 and see where that gets us. Not quite there yet. Let's do 4. Okay, so we're starting to get something kind of interesting here for the ground effects, from this like just noise of like wind pushing around on it. Pushing this cloth around. The one thing I wanted to do as well was to not have so many of these little tiny creases in here. I kind of wanted this to feel a bit thicker and a bit maybe heavier. So let's go back up here and let's tweak some stuff in our cloth. And this is the reason I turned the grass off first, because we don't need to worry about the grass right now. I kind of have it set up so that we can just port it in and it'll connect and should be good. But this way we can start to play with some of our our ground cloth effects. So here's our stiffness for the bend. Let's up this to, I don't know, maybe 0.01 there. This is a multiplier of this. So we can go in tens using this drop down, and then we can kind of fine tune it using this slider. So that's kind of the thought process there. So I want this to feel a little thicker, not so much just kind of flowing all over the place. And yeah, I think that's starting to do what kind of I was hoping for. I might even push it a little bit further. I give it a, well, no, it feels like the force of it's pretty good. Um, Feels like it's moving around okay. So this will give us a little bit stiffer cloth without, you know, without really having to do too much extra. We're just basically adjusting those bend constraints between, you know, each piece of the cloth. So let's do one more thing here. Let's actually just push that maybe to, so we'll multiply, we'll go halfway up to the next one. So we'll do 5 here. This will go halfway to the next, you know, factor of 10. That's feeling pretty good. It's a little bit heavier, a little bit slower moving maybe. I think that's exactly what we wanted to get here. Oop, let me hit this little clock icon here so that it slows down a little bit. In fact, let's actually go into our noise here and see if we can't lengthen this pulse length. It feels like it's too short. So let's go to 3 on that. Just see where that gets us. Okay, that's feeling pretty good. Let's just play that back at full speed and see if we can't see what that looks like. Yeah, that's looking pretty nice. Now, the other thing I want this to do is kind of twist, right? That's one key thing I want to do is twist it. So let's do this. I'm going to do a line, and we're going to use this for I can delete this node, totally unnecessary. So we're going to use a line, and we're going to put that into, we're going to use that to drive some rotational forces, basically. So we'll add this line in right there. Let's just do this. And I'm just going to set this to be maybe a length of, I don't know, 5 maybe. And then I'm going to copy this parameter, paste the relative reference here to it, and then we'll just do minus that half, and oops, divided by 2 is what I meant to do. So now that should be right in the middle. So as we change the length, it's just going to make sure that that sits right in the middle, and that's great. So let's do 5 there. That should be good. In fact, you know what? I think I actually slightly pushed that up because it's never going to go down below that. So I was thinking, oh yeah, that kind of doesn't make sense. So let's just slightly adjust that. So that's the origin. So it's a little below if somehow it went below, but okay, cool. So there's the line, and we can change the number of points here. Let's change this up. We can maybe do it to 10, something like that. Looks good. Cool. All right, so we'll just say that, and we'll put a null down here and just call that vortex guide. Cool. So there's our vortex guide. So now we're going to jump in here again. We're going to say curve, pop curve force. Put that in here. And let's point that SOP path right there to it. So we'll change this. And where are we? Right there, vortex guide. We'll accept that. So now, turn these off so we can see this a little better. There we go. So now you can see our force, our guide force that's coming in there. So there's a few things that we can adjust here. Force along length. So we could actually do something like this, right? We could kind of adjust it so that lower it's heavier and higher. If something flew up high, it's not going to get maybe as impacted by it. So we'll just maybe push this down a little bit, maybe set that to like 0.4, something like that. Cool. All right, so then individual forces, we're going to play around with these a little bit. And in fact, I can't remember exactly how I set these up last time, but we'll see. So I'm just going to set this to 0.5 for right now. Oh, you know what? I bet you that's why, because I set this air resistance down to 0.5. So we might tweak those, but we'll both set them to half, and then that way we can kind of play with them both ways. So, okay, that's their influence radius. Let's up that quite a bit. Let's do that to maybe 10, something like that. Sure. Why not? We'll start there, see how that goes. So we're just going to play around with these a little bit now and see kind of how these forces start to affect the cloth. That's there. I'm going to turn off this merge right here. Doesn't look like it wants to do too much yet. All right, so let's play around with this a little here. Orbit scale. Let's just go crazy. Let's do 10. See if that gives us anything. Nope, not yet. Let's do another 10. Okay, there we go. We're starting to see some there. So this is going to be a little bit different than what I did last time because I kind of set the air resistance in the middle. Hopefully that'll get us a little bit closer to maybe what we want. Seems like that's going a little too far here on the edges. So I'm going to just come to this pop wind here. Maybe turn the amplitude down by just a little, something like that. All right, so let's see how this orbit scale is working here. So maybe we do need to push this up to like 0.75, something like that. So you're getting this rotational force here, but it seems like it's just not going far enough. So let's do this. Let's kind of as I was thinking about it, I think I actually did something more like this last time. So let's select all of these, and I am going to change that to monotone cubic, just so it's more of a soft kind of hill situation here. So we'll do that 0.5. That's at 0. That's at 0. Great. All right, let's see how that goes. So that's not going to be pushing it so much in the middle, but more on the outside of the, or kind of, sorry, not right in the middle of the circular area here, but kind of halfway out. It's going to have the most force there. So we'll see if that does anything for us here. Add a little bit of follow scale, which is going to pull it up a little. See what that does. Yeah, that rotates it a little bit. All right, it's too much. I don't want it to be pulling up. So let's see. I think we need any inherent velocity scale. I don't think that's anything. Not sure even what that's saying. Oh, I see. Yeah. If the curve has velocity on it, how much of that is getting imparted to it? We're not doing any from that. All right, let's just make sure that we're good here. Force along length, we adjusted that. In fact, let's just go back to just a little bit more higher just to make sure that's not causing any issue. Resample curve. Sure. I guess it doesn't really matter. We had it at a fine length, so whatever. We'll just keep that on. Guides, binding, great. Okay. We're still not having that rotational scale that I'm really looking for here. So let's just go crazy. See if we can't get it to do something here, because it should. It was doing it last time. I just want to make sure we're getting a good look. We will up the suction scale a little too. These forces are getting so high, but that's okay. If it works, it works, you know? I'm not going to overthink it, I guess. That really got run away. Okay. So let's do this. Maybe we'll do 150 here. Maybe we will put just a little bit more of this in. Maybe this noise will be helpful. Let's see. So not so much of it sitting just on the ground. Maybe that's the problem. There was too much actually sitting on the ground still. All right, I think we could actually go back to that. We're going to do this at 2 maybe. Actually, let's try this. Let's try this first. Let's just try turning the suction scale down just so it maybe doesn't pull it in so much. Maybe that'll be better. Because really, I just want it to almost just rotate, you know? Actually, the other thing too is I should probably just up this a little bit, maybe to like 0.25. And over here, let's up this to 0.25, just so that it's not completely static on the outsides, you know? So that it's kind of got this pull across the whole thing. So that if it does rotate, it's not just rotating in the middle, but it's rotating kind of all around. Okay. Not looking too bad. All right, let's do this. Let's up the radius a little bit. We'll let that hopefully pull it a little bit more around as a whole. Then I'm also going to probably up the outside a bit as well, just to make sure that that's pulling a little harder so it doesn't get sucked in quite as much. Okay, it's starting to look pretty good. Let's maybe bring this up a little more to this noise. I just want to maybe get a little bit more random noise in here as well. I don't want it to be so like perfectly rippled. I think we can actually turn this vortex force down because that's probably going to be pulling it a little bit too hard now because it's lifting up off the ground. There's not as much friction to hold it back. So let's do that. Let's bring that down a little. Let's do 5. So this is why I like to kind of do, isolate these things in, one at a time, because obviously these are going to influence that grass, but we kind of want to just see this in isolation, see how this movement's kind of evolving and working. Just kind of, I think, a little bit smarter way of working than trying to do everything simultaneously all at once. I did it a little bit more separate last time, but wanted to show that fur hair kind of thing to start with and then go from there. So yeah, this is more what I was looking for anyways, so looking good. Getting some kind of spirally look here. It's kind of interesting. I think what I'm going to do is up the outside of this as well, just so it doesn't pull so much in through here. Oh, shoot. Ah, darn it. Didn't update my cache here, my sim cache. So I'm going to up this. I always try to set this to at very most half of your RAM, something like this for your cache memory, just so you don't accidentally, crash your computer or anything like that from having too much sim cache loaded in. Cool. Okay, this is looking nice. Oh yeah, that's right. I just wanted to up the outside force a little here. So let's change the outside to 0.5. I don't want the inside to be so strong, so that's going to be a little lower, but this will kind of give us this higher outside, highest kind of in the middle, and lowest on the very inside. So it's spinning, but it's not pinching in the middle, but it's also going to hopefully pull itself around a little bit better than it would right in the middle. So at least that's my hope. We'll see. Might actually need to turn the well, actually it's not all sucking in, so that's good. So our cloth is not just sucking into the middle, which is I think a really good look. I don't think we would really want that. It'll look kind of silly, get all bunched up. Turn these. Oh no, I guess we'll leave them on for right now. Okay, so that's just about done. Let's just see where this gets to. Yeah, it's looking kind of interesting. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. All right, let me just make sure both of these are set. In fact, this should be set to just the ground, no grass. Okay, so we've got some interesting cloth looking stuff going on here. Great. All right, so I'm going to drop this back in here. I'm going to do Shift R to switch these so that they're organized well. And I'm going to turn these both back on like that. Cool. There's also, I think if you hit Q and highlight them, that'll turn them both on or off. So like if I hit Q and did this, that'll turn them all on or off. Kind of a nice little shortcut for you. All right, so we've got all these hairs here. Oh, those are supposed to be bent, aren't they? What's going on here? Oh, I see. They're only bending in that one direction. Okay, so let's just do two bends then. So they're only bending in that one direction. That's funny. So we'll say bend, and in this case, we'll say direction constant, and we'll say instead of that, we'll do a -1 here, like that. How's that gonna look? Let's see. We're gonna say the random angle is 90. Is that actually gonna work? I don't know. Maybe not. Um, Let's just see if we can adjust this here. Let me see. Let's do this as an axis constant instead. If we do... Um, it's interesting. I think that that would... Hmm. Is there a better thing than that? Smooth, straight, and frizz bend. Okay. Well, we'll just say that that's random enough. It's not perfect, but uh, it's like straight from this angle. So it's like doing it at a 45, which is still a little strange to me. Would think random bending in two axes would not do that, but whatever. At least it looks sort of random, kind of no matter which direction you look at it, unless you look at it perfectly straight on this way. No, actually, yeah, we'll call that good. It's really not straight from any real angle. There's some straightness, but whatever. Okay, so I just bent it in those two directions, basically. Cool. All right, so we've got that. The glue should be working. There it is. Great. Okay. Good. All right, let's see what that gets us here. Now we shouldn't have these acting on it. That's set to ground. That's set to ground. All right, let's see what happens here. Ah, yes, they all fall down. That's right, because they're not stiff enough. So we've got them constrained, I think, but they're all just flopping over because they're hair. And hair, by default, is a little too bendy. So let's just say this here. We'll call this ground. Call this vellum ground. Call this grass. And this will be grass. I could type grass glue. All right. Some of these nodes use those for different things. So like there's different attributes that it sets, like tags. So we'll that'll make sure that we are actually using $OS, which is the variable from the node name. So we'll do that. Okay. So let's look at the vellum grass here. Quite a bit too loose. Let's go up to like 0.1, see where that gets us. Hopefully that'll be a little bit stiffer. Gotta look at the vellums over here. I'm gonna hold down R and just select this. Yep, that'll change the display flag. If you hold down R, select a node, that'll move the display flag there. All right, so what I'm gonna do is let's set a camera here somewhere just so we can watch this. Something like, I don't know, there, I guess, sure. And let's see what that looks like. So let's just start that. Oh, you know what? I actually don't want all that stuff in the way. So let's just start that again. It'll reload that and we can watch it in here and just kind of see how that's going. It seemed a little too floppy, maybe. But we can see that everything's constrained, so that's good. It's good that we're getting some nice constraints there. They're all going to be interacting, right? Because they're all in the same Vellum simulation. So we have all of the collisions that we need. We have the ground to grass collisions and the glue there that's keeping them constrained together. So that's good. Yeah, so it's working. Actually, yeah, I think I'm going to change the length of it. I think I'm going to change it to like around zero point 0.5 because it feels like just too long for grass, honestly. So let's do that. Let's change that up a little bit. All right, let's come in here. We're going to set the length here instead. So instead of 0.75, let's do it 0.5 and maybe 1, something like that. Just shorten it a little bit. I think that'll be good. And then let's also strengthen this up just a little. We'll set it to 1 for the stiffness. Just looking at anything else here that I might want to change. No, I think we're good. All right, let's add another sequence here. Let's resim. See how this goes. These really get flung over here. Kind of interesting. So we do have one hair here that, or grass thing that's basically not really glued very well because it's right on the edge. So that's something we'll just kind of have to keep in mind that that little bit there is not looking correct. But that's okay. We can definitely make that work regardless. So if there's some on the edge that we need to cull out of here or like delete out of there, that's fine. That'll totally work. But overall, it's looking like it's working. We're getting some interesting movement here. All of our grass is following. It's kind of all doing what you would expect, basically. We're getting the collisions that we'd expect. Nothing's really like coming through on the underside here. It's all staying nice. So this seems like it's working pretty well. So that's great. Let's just do this. We'll just cancel out of that. And let's come down here and let's do a Vellum IO. So this is going to be our caching system. So we'll use this and let's just say that we're going to put this under sim. We'll call this Vellum grass ground cache. Put it under sim here and let's save it to disk and background. I'm just going to save this overall. We'll save it to disk and background. That'll make sure that this is kind of running while we're going here. So this is going to start up kind of a new instance in the background, start running that sim for us without having to make us kind of wait for it. Now you're seeing here that this is kind of going by. We're not seeing anything in the screen yet though. That's just because we have to just move this to just kind of recook that network and bring it back into play. So, all right, great. We've got that. That's looking good. So now we're going to have our geometry, our constraints, and our collisions. So our geometry really is what we're going to want to split out here. So let's just do that. We'll do a split here. And we can pull out, let's see, let's see what the order of these is going to be. So we're going to want to do, we're going to want to use the hair gen again. Let's do that. We're going to use the hair gen. Just like so. So we want the skin or points, the guides, and the animated skin or points. So we want rest skin, guides, animated skin. So what we will do here is we'll do a time shift. Just gonna set this back to 1. Just gonna delete this channel here because we're gonna keep that at 1. So we'll just call this one first frame. It's gonna go into the rest skin. This will be our guide, so that's this. Actually, I didn't select them, so that's makes way more sense to do. All right, so there's our ground. There's our ground. Great. So then this is going to be our guides. So our guide should be coming out of that second. And then this is the animated skin. We're going to put it in like that. All right. So we're going to use the guides. I don't want to grow unguided. And let's see here. That's weird. It's only doing them in the middle. Let me just double check what I had here before. Sim is going. Oh, maybe that's the problem. Maybe I don't want this. Make sure we're getting the right stuff out of these here. Yeah, that's right. Let me make sure I have rest on all of these. I might not have set a rest attribute. Let me just make sure that that's on all of these because that is part of it. Okay, this has rest. Yep. This down here. Does this have a rest on it? Haha, there's our problem. These need rest. I believe that is the issue. Yes, I think those need rest. All right, let me remove that. Remove that. I am going to put a rest. If I can type. Let's put one right here. That should give all of these a rest position. Let's just resim that in the background. Oh, I see. I have this Vellum solver selected, so it's trying to sim and show me that one as well, which I don't want it to do. I just wanted to show me this one. Okay, cut it out. Thank you. I just want this one. Perfect. Okay. So let's see how that goes. Yep, that's doing what I need it to now. Perfect. Okay, so now we've got all these hair clumps here, and how do we look at this a little better? Sheesh. Too much hair here. All right, let's get in a little closer at least, and we can see what's going on maybe. Right. Let me just see if this other way of doing this would work too, because it does actually want this to be a rest position here. So let's just try this. Delete channel. Then not sure how that. Okay, cool. All right, so it looks like we're getting a little bit better here. So let's try to really reduce this for a second, just so we can see maybe a little better what's going on here. All right, so we're going from guide curves that look like this to now kind of interpolating between those. So we can do 100, maybe 125, something like that. So what we're doing is we're taking these base curves like this one right here, for example. If we look at it, there's one curve in the middle there. We're duplicating it and using the ones around it to get that position. So what we can do then is up the influence radius on these, right? So that's part of it. The other thing we might want to do is do the influence decay. That's going to adjust how these influences kind of work against with each other. If we turn the influence radius way down, that's going to actually stop generating curves all around them. So let's bring this up. What was the default on this? 0.05. Yeah, way too small. All right, so let's do it maybe something like 3 maybe. I think that'll probably get everything filled in. Yeah, it looks like it's pretty well filled in. So then what we can do is we can change this influence decay, right? Because this is just saying like the radius, but how quickly does it decay between each of those? So as we turn this down, it should actually change the way that these blend together, right? So let's see here. So maybe we give this even a little more radius and then let this still decay like that. So that can really smooth it out, right? So we could do a bunch of different things here, right? We could do something like that, where it's going to be a little bit more, loose. Let's bring this back up here to this camera. What could we do to make this easier to see with all these hairs? Let's leave it like that for right now. Let me just pull this over. Maybe not. I was going to say let's do that so we can see a little better, but not really. All right, let's just get another flip book in here. Oh, it's going to overwrite this one. That's all right. Kind of interesting. You can see how that's going to actually update, right? So now we've got these pieces of, grass that are moving through this and are getting affected by all of those forces. And actually, if we look, let's just stop that and just look right in here, right? So we get to one of these segments where it stops, which is right there. So if we look at that, we can see that it's using exactly those positions and kind of smoothing some of them out in certain spots and, doing some other stuff in others. So it's basically interpolating between those guide curves. So this is exactly what I was kind of originally looking for, was taking these guide curves, turning it into this. So this is great. We're getting what we wanted. Let's kind of just take this maybe to its last step logically, and then we can go from there. So let's leave this at, maybe we'll put this to 150. So we got to, no, forget it. Let's do 200. That'll be good. So let's do it at 192. Oh, the last thing I wanted to do was add like a football into here. That's right. I wanted it to be something football-y in there. All right, yeah, let's do that. Let's do that for the last little element here. So we're not going to actually see that in this case. We're going to simulate it in here with these guide curves. So we don't really need to worry about this messy thing. We can actually do this and see it in there. So let's go back. And that can be our sim2 maybe. So we'll do this, Vellum solver. All right. So a football is about 12 inches. So we'll do that. We'll do about 1/3 of a meter spherical thing. So let's just do that. Let's do a sphere. We'll merge that in at this point here. and then we'll use it to kind of go from there. So we'll do a sphere. Let's look at this here, template that. So right now it's at a meter. So instead of that, let's do it at 0.333. Well, let's make it a little bigger because that feels a little small still. Yeah, let's do it something like, maybe we'll do the bad number. Something like that. We'll bring it up by, yeah, that's fine. We'll do it by half of that. Actually, no, we'll bring it up over the top of these so that it's not really colliding with it. We'll do it like 1.25. Let's do this in the x-axis like that. And then what we can do from here is we will reduce the radius. These other, so the x we need to keep. Let's bring this down a little bit. So we're going to set it like that maybe. And set this. It'll probably be a little bit more like a, like what do you call it? Like a rugby ball, but we'll see. I could also do something else. Whatever. Let me just check this here. So let me do football dimensions. We'll look at that real quick. All right, here's our American football dimensions. So we've got 28. Let's just do that. We'll do, so this is 28, 29. So we'll just do that. We'll keep this set to 1. We'll do 0.28, or actually 29. And then for the other ones, we will do 17, looks like. Diameter in both cases. So we'll just copy this parameter, paste the relative reference there, and we'll do 0.17. Sure, close enough. Whatever. And then we can actually make it maybe a little bigger so it feels a little more football-y. Cool. All right, so let's do, okay, that's above the grass, so that's great. I mean, it's not a football, but whatever. It's more like a rugby ball. That's fine. Let's do a group here. We will do, set this to points. And in fact, what I would like to do with this is a Vellum. Oh, I can't think of the name right now. Let me just look. Green pieces? Yeah, I think this is it. Yes, I think this is exactly what I want. I just want that to be a little bit better backed. Something like that is probably good. Cool. That's going to do shape match on it. Great. All right, so I think what we're going to do here is we'll just insert that into, well, let me see here. Could I, yeah, see, I can't use a group here, unfortunately. I can't set this as a group. So what I'm going to do is I am going to pack and insert these. So let's do that. Let's do a Vellum pack. So I'll pack this. Now the reason that you only need 2 packs in this case is, oops, hold down Control and move the whole rest of these down. The reason you only need 2 is because you don't really have to pack those collisions, and this last one is the collision. So it really doesn't inform anything with how this goes if you're just straight going through with these collisions here. So that's kind of a little separate. So I think you could just jump over one of these vellum packs, merge, unpack. You could just have that collision go straight through. Doesn't really matter quite as much. So let's do a merge. Oh, pack merge. Is that what it is? I think it's no. That's right. It's just a merge with these. So just merge these two, and then we'll do a vellum unpack. And that should be what we need. We'll just okay. That seems right. Let me just make sure that that doesn't need to be though. That's fine. It's just that I was kind of freaked out because those spheres went away. The visibility, but they're all still there. They're all still there. And let me just drop another null down here just to double check that the constraints are there as well. Sure enough, they're there. Looks crazy, but that's how the constraints are for that. Okay, so I'm just gonna, oops, went up by accident. Just gonna cut all of these and just shift click both of those to put them in there. So now we've got these two streams of Vellum, data that are being merged. That should be fine. Let's see here. Yeah, that looks right. I'm just going to update the version on this to version 2. Let's go down to here and, well, actually, let's just simulate it for a second first, and then we can make sure that's working. So those points should be deflecting things around them. Don't look like they are. It's interesting. Hmm. I just called that group 4. I should have called that football. Hmm. Let's do this. Let's see. Just want to see if these actually like push it out of the way at all. If there's any interaction there, because it should be. Oh yeah. Here, let's try doing something here. Let's try upping the. Oh, okay. That works. I'm just going to turn them off as that, and then that should work. We'll at least get some sprites in here to see kind of what's going on. It's physically affecting it. It doesn't seem like those hairs are reacting the way I would want them to. Interesting. Let's see how this looks here. So it already thought that those were interpenetrating, which doesn't look like it. But let me just make sure. So I'll do 1.5. So one of the tricky things is that it could actually think that these spheres were interpenetrating with those. Doesn't seem to be the case, but let's see. Let me just make sure that these are all coming in properly as well. I'm gonna turn that off because I don't think that matters. Okay. That all looks good. Just checking everything there. Let's see. Do we get any interesting deformation here? Could be a weight thing, could be a mass thing. Might need to up the mass on that a little bit to make sure that it's actually pushing those out of the way. Something a little different maybe. Let's see here. Escape here. Go back to the beginning. Just let that flip book again and see what we get. Okay. I'm going to try to make this a little bigger. I think that might be partially what's to blame here. So let's do that. Let's do 4. Make sure this is looking okay. Yeah, that's too small. Let's up these to 5. Nope, more. In fact, let's do this to 1, and then that was actually fine before. 069. Cool. All right, let's try that. See how that goes. See if that knocks those out of the way. Kind of hope it does. Oop. All right, so let's do this. We're going to save version 2. We'll save that to disk in the background. Let's just see if we can't isolate just these. Kind of run into this tricky problem of wanting to isolate some of these elements. So this should be just the ground. Then this is going to be the guides and the football. So let's do another split here. Before we get there, we'll do just the guides. I'm sorry, just the hair, grass, whatever you want to call it, grass. And then that's going to be the football over here. So let's just do this. Great. I just want to see what this looks like. You're angry. What are you angry about here, buddy? Hmm. Check these, make sure that I'm not missing something crazy here. Why is that at 0? That's so weird. That is so weird. Why is it doing that? Oh, it like uncached or something. That's why we're getting that error. Okay, perfect. Is our football here? Oops. Just want to see this hair under here, see if it's actually deforming out of the way. It doesn't really seem like it is. Let's do this. Vellum transform pieces. So this is the Vellum geometry, constraint geometry, geometry transform. Yep. Okay, so what we should be able to do is do this and this, like that. And then what we're going to do is bring in this football down here. Let's hope that works. Let's see. Hey, there it is. It's working. Cool. All right, so that's what we really wanted. There we go. All right, let's do another flip book here and just see what's going on. I don't think it's really deforming out of the way properly, but it's okay. Not sure why. Yeah, it's weird. It's like it's getting trapped in there. Like it's really strange. Like you can see it's affecting it, but it's not affecting it the right way. It's not like pushing it down. Well, I might have to tweak that a little bit, but maybe see if we can find what the answer is to that. But I mean, it's definitely doing something, that I was kind of hoping it would do. So, the football's kind of bouncing around there on the ground with it. So, I'll say that that's fairly good for right now. Could probably get that to be better, but what are you going to do? Not everything's going to be perfect every time. Hair curves, skin. Okay, so let's do this. We'll do a null here. We'll say this is out duplicated grass. This is going to be out ground. Oh, you know what? I am actually going to try one thing now that I'm thinking of it. Could possibly be a mass thing. Just do out football here. So those are all set there. So that's going to be the football output. That's going to be the ground. That's going to be the grass. So we're going to output those all to, well, that's weird. That's not updating. Hmm. That's really strange. Don't know why it's not. We'll just do this as the ground because that should be updating. Cool. Maybe that's just outputting the rest skin. Don't know what that's all about. Anyways, cool. Out ground, out football. Let's just try this. Let's see if we can do the grains. Maybe set this to 1, and maybe we'll set the ground density to 1 as well. Just so they're a little bit more. Whoa, that's really low. Let's try to visualize that thickness too. Make sure that that's maybe not too thin. Let's go a little higher on that maybe. It's not going to hurt to up it, I don't think. 2.65. We'll do that. Okay. I'm going to leave this repulsion weight off. That's one more thing we could try, but I'm going to add some friction in there. Just see if that helps as well. It might. Never know. I'm going to turn this off for right now. Use this. And then that way I can actually... That'll be better. Let's do this. Let's turn off. Let's do that again. Perfect. So that way we'll actually be able to see the football here, and we can... Yeah, that should be good. All right, let's try that out. I really want those things to go... That's kind of the goal. I have to be penetrating through it like that. Jeez. Interesting. Let's just try that too. Why not? All right, let's just do this. Make sure that's not the problem. They're all just like in the same name or something weird. They're not colliding properly because they're all in the same name. Yep, they are all getting the same name, and that's why they're not. All right, let's try something a little less elegant, but should work nonetheless. So let's reduce that. So we'll do a merge here. And we'll do another merge for this constraints. Constraints go in there. Let's see. How will this work? Good, hopefully. Interesting, those came through. Okay. Hmm. Just want to see if there's something here that I'm missing. Let's try this. Let's try one more thing here before we move on. Don't like getting messed up by this. So let's try this. All right, so we're going to do this first. Then merge in this geometry here. Got our constraints there. We're merging in some geometry here. Then we're using just the ground points to add cloth. Let's see, is that working? Hmm. That's so weird. Okay, that doesn't work. Let's try one more thing here. Kind of thought that would work, but it's fine. We'll just go back. Just try turning this off. I don't know why that's on. Maybe I accidentally set that. I'm just going to try this too, just to make sure that this isn't the issue here, because it looks like we're getting a piece attribute, which is going not in the maybe at Vellum geometry. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I set that. Vellum geometry. I don't think there's a piece here. D's here. That might be part of the issue. Hmm. Where are those prim ID attributes coming from? It seems. I'm just going to turn this off. Ignore neighbors with the same name or piece. No, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do attribute create. I'm going to set this here. I'm going to set a piece attribute. Set as an integer, and we'll do this as 1 because this is set to, whoops, this is set to piece 0. Let's try it. Can't say it'll work for sure, but it's worth a shot, I guess, huh? All right, last try here. We're going to turn off this ignore. Hopefully that won't blow this up. Yep, it did. Let's turn that off from overlapping. See if that works. All right. Well, that's okay. Let's just take it and just work with it from here. Not sure why that's not colliding, but it's a minor issue. It obviously has a little bit of collision and it'll look okay. It's not going to look perfect, but whatever. It'll work for now. It's definitely like doing something, but anyways. All right, so let's just maybe, how far do we have that simulated? Actually, we don't have that one simulated at all, so let's just do that. We'll save that to disk. Let's turn this on. I don't think that has even the football in it, does it? Oh, it does. Oh, well, that's fine. We can just use that. But we changed this, so let's just resim that actually. Then we can go to Solaris and get a render going. All right. Let that do its thing. Let's do a LOP network here. We'll just say Solaris, red for render. And we can do a SOP import. Going to change this down here to our scene graph tree so we can see how that's working. Don't need these collections, that's fine. All right, so let's do, let's see, so we'll say ground. Let's find that's path out ground, accept. Just do something like this here, maybe to make a camera here. That should be fine. I'm just going to add the LOP lights and camera. We'll just grab a camera there. Cool. Just put this down. All right, so let's do another SOP import. So we're going to call this one grass. The reason I'm naming these is because that's going to end up being what the component name here is. So let's just grab this. Say out duplicated grass, so that should come in. It's a little hard to see there, but that's okay. We can tweak that, I think. So let's go back up here, and we're just going to set this width to maybe be like that. Yep, there we go. We're getting some curves on our hair here. Maybe, no, that seems okay. All right, let's do that, but let's actually instead, let's maybe just up the hair gen just a little bit. We'll do like 250. Cool. Solaris, there we go. Cool. There's our grass. So let's also do another SOP import. And we're going to get our football here. That will come from our out football. So now we should have everything in the scene that we kind of wanted here. Let's see, where did that camera go? So you have to be actually selected in the network where that is. Okay. So let's move around here with that camera. It's not locked. Let's just get a better angle here, maybe. Maybe something like this. Lock so I don't move it around on myself. All right, let's add a dome light. I'm just going to grab one of the default textures. You can obviously do whatever you would like. I'm just going to grab an HDRI here. fine. All right, let's do a material library. Just gonna do a nope. I'm gonna do a, yeah, let's just do principled shaders. That's fine. I'll make sure I use the CPU version so that we're not freaking out my my recording or anything here. So we'll just call this one ground, football, and then hair. Karma hair shaders, right? Should be fine. All right, so we'll say that this is grass. And then we'll just do an assign material right here. And we'll just use each of those. Now, one thing I actually want to do to clean this up a little bit here, we've got our lights, we've got our materials. All of our geometry, I think, should be in the same spot. So let's just do this here. We're going to add a /geo to the beginning of each of these. What that's going to do is just organize this a little bit. Can't believe I actually copied that by accident. Let's copy that again. Paste it there. Paste it here. Great. So now that groups them all into a geo folder. Lights. Great. Perfect. All right, that should be good. We're getting some warnings here because we don't have these saved as layers. We don't have the layer path where we're saving them set. It's fine. That's this right here, layer save path. That basically just means we're saving the USD where we want it. We're just in this case we're just keeping it live and not really setting a save path. So it's kind of a little angry about it, but something to keep in mind. Okay, so primitives. Let's select them here. I'm control clicking. So we want to select the primitive here. So let's select the ground first, I guess. Material path, materials ground. Should be pretty straightforward here. Great. So we're going to do 3. Let's do geo football. Materials football. And then here we're going to grab the geo grass. Material. Great. I think that should all be assigned properly. Ground. Okay, great. So let's go into here. Oh, actually, you know what? First, before we do anything else, let's drop down a karma node here. Let's just kick it off and see what happens. Should get some stuff going on here. Yep, our hair looks like hair, which makes sense. Our football doesn't look like much of anything. Could probably kick up our dome light a little here. So let's do 1. Great. Okay, so let's adjust some of these things here. Let's go into our material library. Let's take our ground. Maybe we'll turn this to something a little bit darker here. Maybe like a nice dark brown. Let's turn down the reflectivity on it. Do that reflective. Cool. Great. So let's adjust this grass color here. We don't want to use melanin. Nope. No, thank you. Doesn't seem like that ground is okay. Yep. Just was totally not what I was expecting for it to be looking like. Okay, so let's do the base color here. Let's get it into like a green situation. To draw a little box here just so we can get a little thicker, maybe performance out of this. I think I want to up the roughness here and maybe we give it a little random. Ah, the tint. There we go. That's let's see. The tint to be maybe something more in here. Ah, yes. We want to add some diffuse color as well. All right, there we go. We're starting to get something going on here. It's not perfect, but we're getting something. Just change the color of this football and then we'll maybe call it good. It's like a chocolate egg. Well, anyways, at least we've gotten somewhere a little bit better in all of this. You've got a better idea of how to actually do, the hair shading, or not hair shading, the hair workflows using the grooming tools and stuff like that. You could certainly push this idea a lot further. This was just kind of a, understanding of how some of these concepts work. So hopefully that's really helpful and gives you a better understanding of how these things work than you did on the stream from Wednesday. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this little update. Well, not little update. It's been probably almost 2 hours, but hopefully this is helpful. Yeah, hopefully it gives you a better sense of how these tools work. So if you need anything, always drop it in the comments down below, or you can visit HoudiniHangout.com for an invite to the Discord server, and there you can chat and figure out maybe if there's something you're missing, or if there's something you'd like to suggest for a future stream, there's a suggestion channel there as well. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Later.